Did the show ruin the blood and cheese shock?
Is King Aegon showing signs that he could be a good king?
What's Ser Criston Cole's most impressive performance? As head of the King's Guard or the head of the Keep Away from Your Queen Guard?
Heck yeah, we'll answer all those questions and more on Season 2, House of the Dragon of the
Joffrey
Podcast.
I've been very busy. Many important matters require a king's attention. I'm king now. King now. I am king. I am kiss it. Kiss it again when I return. Your fingers or your king doesn't fingers discuss your battle plan. Each one, but your fingers or your tongue. I am the king. I'm telling mother. Oh.
My name's Bubba, and with me, as always, is someone who wants a pony ride from Tywin Lannister. It's Catfish.
Whee! I'm gonna play with your thing. Uh-oh. It is Game of Thrones.
Guys, we're going to be breaking down Season 2, Episode 1 of House of the Dragon, A Son for a Son. We're going to be spoiling all of Game of Thrones, all of House of the Dragon so far, but we're going to be relatively light on book spoilers, except for this assassination of the young prince known as Blood and Cheese in the Song of Ice and Fire community. As Alicent grows concerned by Aegon's small council, Rhaenyra arrives at a fateful decision. People say Rhaenyra said one line in the whole episode, I want my younger, she didn't even say my younger brother, Aemond Targaryen. So I guess that's the fateful decision. We're going to be playing our match game. We're going to be talking about all of these great characters, and we're going to debate the ethics, morals, and we're going to choose a side, Team Black or Team Green, Catfish.
Oh, wow. That is incredible. Does that mean I need to know who's on which team?
It wouldn't help, no. But let's not spend a minute longer. Let's get to Season 2, A Son for a Son, Episode 1. What is your rating out of 10 for this first episode?
I'm going to give this 8.7 triple R's out of 10.
Triple R's?
Yeah, rampaging residential rats. We are used to our queen saying all kinds of nutty things. But she said something about the rats. I thought, she is out of her mind. What did I see for the entire rest of the episode? Rats. This had some, I don't know whether it had more than one bit of humor than this, but it had enough when our boy Aemond gets introduced. And he's like, it's Aegon the Magnanimous. And Aegon turns to his boy and is like, what the heck? And the guy's like, shrug. I mean, what the heck? Why not? But then he was magnanimous later on in the episode. That was fascinating. Makes me like him a little less, but that's what we're going to do. I loved Bubba. I'm going to give every episode of House of the Dragon from now on.
Ooh, I can't
It's going to get an extra star from me if there are no horrific birth scenes. That's it. That's all I ask. Bonus star, no horrific birth scenes. There were
that's one. That's one episode.
That's one. I had to give it an extra one. Bubba,
yeah,
I had to watch the previously on, and then they had like a 3-minute thing that was separate. Did I see this show? The sea snake showed up, and I thought, this guy died, didn't he?
He was doing rough. But unlike some of the characters, he made it to Season 2.
All right, Bubba.
Yeah.
I always like to set myself a goal for every season, as well as setting the characters a goal.
Sure.
This is it. Last year, I was Team Aemond. That's boring. This year, my allegiance is up for grabs. It's either Aegon or Larys. Fight it out, guys.
Man, that is a fascinating teams you could be getting on there, Catfish. Very exciting. 8.7 out of 10. You were very high on this episode. That's incredible.
I was so happy to have it back, Bubba. I was like, good Lord, it's been forever.
It has been forever. It's been so long. Mysaria forgot what her accent sounded like. She's like, gotta do this. Well, Catfish, I feel terrible that you're so excited because my rating is going to be real tough.
Oh, boy, let's hear it.
In fact, I'm only giving this 6.5 double D's out of 10.
Double D's?
Well, double D stands for diminished drama.
Oh,
now, being one of these buffoons who's a book reader, I went into this episode expecting the horrible thing that happened at the end of the episode, but I'm going to get to it right now. Why didn't I connect with it? Now, listeners of the Joffrey podcast, if you remember, we went to the House of the Dragon world premiere for season 1.
Well, that's why you're really upset, Bubba, because we didn't get invited to the premiere for season 2.
I know. And our buddy Jack Duran, he did get invited. The guy we were talking to at last year's season premiere. But really what it was is last year during the premiere of the whole show, I really didn't connect with it until the horrific birthing scene with Aemma and the death. And what I realized was that even though I knew that she and the child were going to die, like that was from the book, I knew it was going to happen. The actress's portrayal of the fear and the shock and the emotion on her face, it went to me. And so I kind of felt those things. And so last year I was kind of cold on the episode until then. And then I went along with it. And I thought back, I knew in Game of Thrones what was going to happen to Ned Stark, but the panic of his daughters there in King's Landing, the craziness, the score, the shock, I felt it. I knew what was going to happen in the Red Wedding, but the shock, the fear, all those things the actors were portraying, I could really feel them. And so in this episode, at the very beginning, once again, I wasn't emotionally engaged with the episode. But because I knew, this horrific thing was going to happen at the end, I thought that would be the thing to lock me in, like Emma's death in season 1. But because they chose to portray Queen Helena's reaction as almost, it was like she checked out, and I didn't see such a visceral fear, such a visceral panic, so much as somebody who was almost kind of like out of it and kind of stone-faced for a bit. I didn't emotionally connect with this horrific ending, which is crazy, which I kind of wanted to connect to. And it's known in the book, readers, people who had read the books knew the term Red Wedding well before the show did it. People who've read this Fire and Blood volume from George R.R. Martin, they knew the term blood and cheese. They knew the horrific thing that was going to happen. And yet, for whatever reason, I wasn't emotionally engaged. I still love these characters. I've gone online, and people who television critics who saw the first 4 episodes for their reviews, they say that the season does pick up. But as sad as it is for me to say, I didn't connect with it. Catfish, you haven't read Fire and Blood. How did you feel watching that scene at the end where these guys come in, hold the mother with a knife to her throat and say, which one of these 2 kids is your son? We're going to kill him. Youch. How did you feel? How did you react to it?
Bubba, I'm kind of a strange dude.
Uh-oh, edit. No.
My main concern was,
yeah.
I thought they were supposed to be killing Aemond, right?
Yes.
That's who Rhaenyra wanted him to kill. They should have known that Aemond was not a child, and they're not there to kill a child.
Right. They at the very least knew killing a daughter wasn't a big thing, because I think it was Blood who said, well, a son for a son, she won't cut it. But you're right. These guys, they got in perfectly, but kind of after they got in, you just want to throw up your hands and say, what was the point of sneaking it? You walked across the throne room like it was no big deal. Why not come in the front door? And then, really just crazy. How do you think, since you could possibly be on Team Aegon or Larys, how do you think Aegon is going to react to his heir being slaughtered? How do you think Larys is going to react to it?
Well, I think our boy Aegon is probably going to take another 10% ducks or sheep from the small folk. I think he's going to take it very rationally.
How about Larys? What do you think he's going to do?
Larys is going to use it to become the hand of the king. It's like, if I was hand of the king, this wouldn't have happened.
That is definitely how it feels like the story is going. Listeners, we love to say, who cares what we think? Catfish loved it. I was a bit cold on the episode. Our opinion is just our opinion. What matters is your opinion. How do you let us know your opinion? Write to us on all our social media platforms at PHQ. That's the word double, the single letter P for podcast, HQ for headquarters, at PHQ on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, YouTube, Facebook. Like, if you want to tell us what you thought of this episode, tell us that I'm right, I'm wrong, tell us that Catfish is right and wrong. reach out. We really want to know if you guys are happy to be back in Westeros.
Well, but you just buried the lead.
Let's hear it.
The Joffrey podcast was renewed for another season.
Season 3 of House of the Dragon. Wow. Who will still be alive by then?
Because the value added of the Joffrey podcast. So let's focus on the Joffrey podcast been renewed.
Cha-ching.
We're going to make twice as much money next year.
We will. We're on a pay scale. It's just going to go up, up, and up. Listeners, if you like this silliness, and no reason why you should, but if you like the silliness of Catfish and I, know right now we're covering the Star Wars television show, The Acolyte, on our Parsec Passion podcast feed. Next week, a show that we always say we're the only English language and possibly only podcast in the world that covers the German show Babylon Berlin. We're going to be covering season 4 because it's out here in the United States and Canada next week. At the end of House of Dragon, just 3 weeks after House of Dragon ends, we're going to be breaking down Let's Solve Only Murders in the Building season 4. Double M and Priscilla are going to be talking Rings of Power season 2. Later on this year, we got another Star Wars show, Skeleton Crew, and we've got another mystery for Detective Catfish to solve in Moonflower Murders.
Ooh. Very important for duty, sir.
And let me say, I mentioned all those social media platforms, Catfish, right at the top. Normally, we aren't so honest, podcast listeners, but recently, this off season, I was doing some things and I was trying to respond or tweet to this person who I thought, oh, that's real funny. And I found out I was blocked on Twitter. Double PHQ was blocked on Twitter because of our hashtag Team Green stance in season 1. We were such fans of Aemond and the silliness of the Greens that someone who possibly didn't understand that this podcast can occasionally be tongue-in-cheek had seen some of our Team Green tweets and was like, I'm blocking them. So if you are Team Black, you are welcome here, even though I, Bubba, may try to convince you to come to Team Green. But no, we want to be on all your House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones socials. So please.
Amazing.
Tell us what's up.
But you're not somebody until somebody else has blocked you.
We've made the list. We've made it. 10 years on Twitter, we've made it. Catfish, before we get into the episode proper, last year, and I'll just speak for myself, last year's opening of, the blood line and literal blood flows out from here to there to this child to that child of the House of the Dragon show open, it kind of didn't work for me so well. What the showrunner said is because we're in a period where, it's not like anybody's going to be having new children, is what they're implying this season. They thought, well, the blood wouldn't go anywhere. It'd be the same open every week. So they decided to go with a new opening. This is an animation kind of set to the Bayeux tapestry of history that I've actually seen in France, in Bayeux, talking about William the Conqueror in those times. What did you think of this new tapestry open for House of the Dragon?
You know, Bubba, I knew I had to watch the whole thing because you were going to force me to talk about the opening.
No good.
I actually thought the opening was cool. The embroidery.
Yeah, I liked it too. I did too. It's still not as perfect, or even I would say as simple as the Game of Thrones opening was. It was kind of a map. You realized as soon as you saw in the very first episode, you saw King's Landing and then Winterfell fell. And then later in that first episode, there were actually graphics on the screen that said, this is Winterfell, this is King's Landing. So it was kind of a way of saying, oh, okay, that thing's a map. It was real easy to follow. This tapestry is beautiful. Some of the images in it may be more difficult to follow because it isn't always so clear, but I thought it was beautiful and in much improvement, in my opinion, from the blood. What did you think? Improved from the blood or just as good as the blood?
Oh, no, I liked it better. I really enjoyed it the one time I'll watch it this season.
How dare you? Do you know how much time they spent stitching? How could you? And before we get into deeper this episode, all the characters, all the fun stuff, what separates the Joffrey podcast from every other Game of Thrones House of the Dragon podcast? Us. We're the thing that separates.
Right. Okay. That's a good point.
And we are, as you can probably tell, 4 or 5 minutes into this podcast, not professionals. So we try to professional it up every season on our House of the Dragon coverage by playing the House of the Dragon match game. This is where we come up with a question. We send it out into the universe. Catfish and I don't come up with answers. We don't know your answers, and we try to see if we can match. It's the old classic match game. You can find these questions not only on @PHQ on Twitter, but also PHQ on Instagram, on Threads, on our YouTube community page. We know not everybody loves Twitter after Elon has done his latest thing. I'm going to say it like this. Recently, he made likes, invisible. And so when you're watching this, I'm sure he's done something else crazy. So if you don't want to be on Elon's Twitter or his X, you can look at it on Instagram, Threads, YouTube. You can answer these questions, and we want to hear from you. So Catfish, are you ready to play the match game?
I am ready.
Question 1. King Aegon doesn't want to be known as the Magnanimous. He should go by Aegon the blank. King Aegon doesn't want to be known as the Magnanimous. He should be known by Aegon the blank. Catfish, what do you got?
Airless.
Catfish, this is our first match game of the year.
Yes, it is.
I want you to highlight what I put for my answer as King Aegon should be known by airless.
Exactly
Catfish rematched. That is incredible. Oh
all
my
right, show's
God.
over. Shut it all down.
Right. It's all downhill from here. Oh my goodness. Catfish and I'm not sure we ever matched in season 1 of House of the Dragon. Incredible. Aegon the Airless. That was our pitch. Once again, who cares what we think? We want to know what you think. Catfish, are you ready to read some of the answers some of our wonderful double L's?
Double L's.
Loyal listeners put down for this answer. You ready?
Hell yes, they do so many funny things. Dooley's Left Legs at Dooley Left Legs says he should go by Aegon the Window Wanker.
No. Man, there's certain things we don't want to remember from season 1, certainly the painful childbirths or this painful growing. But guess what, Catfish? We could possibly have what I would consider a match here from our listeners. So King Aegon doesn't want to be known as the Magnanimous. He should be known as Aegon the Masturbator. That's, I say, a match.
Oh, that is a match. At All Mod Cons.
On
Bubba,
Twitter. Yeah.
Get the bell ready.
Get it ready.
Jack Klompus at BTMac11 says he should go by Aegon the Window Skeeter. Skeet, skeet, skeet.
Can you believe this? What incredible this. Oh my goodness. Match game has never matched so well. Now we have some that didn't quite match. UN Knight wrote that King Aegon should not be known as the Magnanimous. He should go by Aegon the Cheesed. Is it blood and cheese? Oh my goodness. And of course, a true double L loyal listener, Nicholas Fortuna. He should go by Aegon the, I believe he wrote arrogant.
Okay.
What do you think he wrote? That's what he wrote.
I'm going to go with that.
Okay. Listeners, just because we match now, note that at the end of the year, everybody who matches anybody is going to be eligible for a House of the Dragon prize. That's right. So we want you to play along. We want you to come up with these silly match games like we do. And you can play even after the podcast. Go down in the YouTube comments. Let's hear your thoughts for these match games. We've got a couple more coming up. And match game 1, so many matches. Catfish, let's hang it up. Let's hang it up. It's over.
Done.
Okay, well, now let's get to our first discussion point, and it was a question we asked in our show open. Did the show succeed in the hideous blood and cheese shock? Now, Catfish, once again, you didn't know it was coming.
Correct.
But were you shocked? Were you disgusted? Were you emotional? Like, how did you connect with that scene of this young child based on the sound, possibly having his head sawed off? Ugh.
Yeah, that part of it was a little excessive.
Mm-hmm.
However, this show is very bloody.
Oh, yeah.
And I will say, this is maybe just a problem with myself, but a kid being killed is bad, but if I don't connect with them, it's not as bad emotionally as a character I know about. So just
you
because
were
it's
like
a child
Tywin Lannister. You were like Tywin Lannister. This kid annoyed me at the office. So if he has his head sawed off, who gives a rat's? Okay.
he's taking his last pony ride.
R.I.P. And it seems to me he lived his life like a pony ride in the wind. Oh, so once again, this within the book reading community, this blood and cheese assassination, because of things in the book and kind of the emotional Sophie's choice of it in the show, they're like, which one of these two kids, because they're twins, which one is the boy, which one is the boy? And in the end, she easily just kind of points at the boy. In the book, it's between the child who's killed and another male heir, and she has to kind of choose which male heir is going to got. And she has some anguish, and she tries to find a way to reason it. And so they remove that entirely from the show. And then, unlike in the book never explains that, oh, while this was happening, her mom was, she kind of escapes to her mom's bedroom where her mom is fooling around with the Kingsguard. In the book, it's implied that Alicent was tied up in the room. Like Alicent had gone to say goodnight to her daughter and her grandkids, and that Blood and Cheese had tied her up, and she was kind of witnessing this, where here in the show we see it that maybe just as horrific for a grandmother. Hey, while you were getting busy with a Kingsguard member who might have prevented this, your grandson was killed. So, ooh. I mean, both are tough, but again, I already explained that it didn't connect with me so much.
Yeah, I mean, I assume they couldn't kill our boy Aemond because he's so badass.
No, they could not this early. No way. Not with a character that is of such importance. Like, this is about drama ratcheting up. If, okay, Aemond killed my son and then I kill Aemond. In some ways, that would almost kind of level set the violence for a bit, possibly.
Well, I don't think Alicent is going to be lighting any candles for that part of the family anymore.
Oh, hell no. That is she might light them up. Candles, no, but she might light them up. Listeners, I don't want to go too detailed into all the book stuff, because if you haven't read it, hey, read it. It's very interesting. It's very graphic. It does have a very different feel in the text. If you've already read it, you know what happens. So I don't have anything other than to say that we want to know from you guys. Are you okay with this change to how the events went down? In the end, it's the same result. These gentlemen broke in as the rat catcher knew the way in. They get in. This child is killed. But are you okay with the different stakes and the different way it played out? We want to know from you. If you're on YouTube, hey, go down in the comments. Let us have it. We want to hear.
I love it, Bubba. Now that we've had this serious conversation,
yeah,
it's time for match game 2.
Thank goodness, yes.
I will read it, and Bubba, I see that I have some matches here, but I'm just going to pose this. And I all the time compliment our loyal listeners for being more clever than me. I think I was the most clever in my response.
Ooh, you are really aiming high here. Okay, I can't wait. I can tell you this, if we somehow match, that's going to be incredible. But let's hear it.
All right, here it is. Queen Alicent put a white cloak on Ser Criston Cole after he was protecting the royal blank.
Okay,
Bubba, I'm going to let you answer first. Queen Alicent put a white cloak on Ser Criston Cole after he was protecting the royal blank.
Low tower. She's a high tower. He was protecting the low tower. Do I hear a match? The bell isn't ringing.
No, not from me.
Oh, curses. Okay. All right. Well, Catfish, I'll read it for you. I was hoping that your answer might match mine after we did so well the first question. Queen Alicent put a white cloak on Ser Criston Cole after he was protecting the royal
rat catcher.
Oh, Catfish. Youch. Oh, I don't want to go too far, but you may have gone too far, but
luckily for me, our listeners have gone just as far.
Oh,
Kelly Underfoot Kelly Underfoot says he was protecting the royal rat trap.
No.
He was just adjusting the Queen's rat guard. The castle's infested. The castle's infested, you know. Jack Clumpus at BT Max says
Yes.
he was protecting the royal kitty cat.
Oh, this is one of my favorites. Another true double L. Nicholas Fortuna at Nicholas Fortuna on Twitter. He said he was protecting the royal hot pocket.
Oh.
I don't know why that disturbs me so much, Nick. That was a great answer, but it also kind of disturbs me. Oh, so good.
He was protecting the royal riverlands.
No.
They were flowing.
Terrible. At Dooley's left leg, a true double L. We always say double L's. You got to start hosting this podcast so we can do less work. But you're doing such great work with these match games. You and Kelly. That's incredible.
Ring the bell.
I did, yeah.
For Kelly and Jack and myself. We're matched.
Incredible. Listeners, again, you can play along. Tweet at us, social media, go down on the YouTube comments. Let's hear your answer for that very
Ratcatcher. I was so proud.
Lowbrow question.
Because it was a double.
That was lowbrow. This is a new season, and we are starting lower than low. We are starting so low in the gutter. And you love it too much. So let's go back up and have serious discussion time, Catfish. There's so many characters. We got introduced to some new ones in this episode. I'm not sure how much time we'll be able to talk about the new ones, but I do want to talk about the characters who really are what drive this show. And let's talk about two characters who were just in our match game, who last season we saw they developed a very tight bond, but we had no idea last season that it was this intimate, that it was this sexual. The showrunner gave an interview recently where he said, yeah, this is a new development. Well, King Viserys is probably, based on interviews, only dead 10 days. Did this happen? Did this start, how new is new? Did it develop in the last 10 days since he passed away in the showtime? Is it, somewhat new? What are your thoughts on Queen Alicent, who feels like she's losing control? Ser Criston Cole, who sometimes brushes up against, hey, I'm somebody who people can order around, and their intimacy. What are your thoughts on Alicent and Criston Cole, Catfish?
Well, I mean, if Alicent is worried about losing control, she shouldn't let Criston drive him out of her mind.
Oh, come. Terrible.
Yeah.
I said we were getting out of the gutter for a moment, Catfish.
Criston Cole, the royal himbo, the star effer. He knows what side his bread is buttered on.
Yes, be careful there. I could see some very bad allegories you were going to drop there. I am shocked by this, and also not shocked. So again, this kind of comes out of nowhere. There was hints that they were very close, but Criston, remember, back in the middle of season 1, after he has had his little dalliance with Rhaenyra.
Dalliance? How many kids did they have?
Listen to me. He had 0 kids with Rhaenyra. That was a Strong brother. But when he fooled around with Rhaenyra, remember afterwards, he's like, this white cloak is all I have. I swore a vow of chastity and I've broken it. And he seems so upset about it. He almost, he killed somebody theoretically at Rhaenyra's wedding because of it. And then he almost killed himself. And now he has reached the point where he's comfortable enough. Yeah. Yes, I've had a vow of chastity. That's,
he thinks he does protest too much.
That's in every room but this room. No, that's outside. Do you like Alicent and Criston Cole?
Make me horny.
Oh my goodness. How about this? Do you like Alicent? Yes or no? Do you like her and why?
I do like Alicent. I think they did a good job last season of explaining why she's in this position. It was an honest misunderstanding.
Yeah, I agree.
Of the king, and she's going forward the way that she thinks she should go.
Okay, and I agree. I like Alicent too. I think it was a nice moment in this episode, what you mentioned earlier, that, hey, I'm lighting this candle. She lit a candle for her mother who had passed away, for her husband Viserys who had passed away, and then she lit one for Lucerys, who died, when her son, his dragon, ate him. So I like Alicent too. Now, let's go to Criston Cole, because he's kind of interesting. People online earlier today, instead of Lancelot, I heard somebody call him Insolot. So what are your thoughts of Criston Cole, the guy who, once again, he went really hard against Rhaenyra, still seems against
you can
Rhaenyra.
Say that.
Yeah, yeah, it is. All right, so what are your thoughts on Criston Cole, Catfish, the military knight of Team Green?
He's just a himbo at this point.
And how do you feel about himbos? Boy, you're real not verbose
sorry.
today.
I that's derogatory. So
okay. I thought you were like game recognizes game.
I mean, I'm jealous of him, but I have no respect for him.
I think he's a fascinating character in how he's wound and how he's able to, find his way through these vows he's made and in the grief he feels about them. And I think it's interesting every time he's on screen. I think, there's this thing we're going to get to later in our character rundown about what characters do you like seeing. I like scenes with Alicent. And even if Criston Cole doesn't behave the way that I wish someone would, the fact that he doesn't, I think, makes him a fascinating character.
But does he behave the way you wish you would?
Oh, man. Listen, I took this vow in every room but this. Down, down. Okay, how about Grandpa, Hand of the King, currently? And boy, you feel like you have to put that currently in lowercase, italicized. Otto Hightower, how do you feel he's doing? Can he control his king grandson? Is he smart to try to control him? How do you think Otto is doing here one episode into season 2?
We didn't talk about this earlier, but the fascinating thing is basically he says to Alicent, eventually he'll get bored of ruling and we'll be able to rule.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, Alicent was implying that too. Yeah, that, it needs to happen in a couple of hours. And will he get bored of ruling after his son has been murdered in his castle? Oh, boy.
Well, he might rule the way Rhaenyra does, which is her rule is kill him. I don't care about this war. Kill him.
I think that's a good point. Now, I want to say about Otto. In season 1, we had so many people attacking Otto. Otto is the worst. Oh, he's so terrible. Oh, he's like Littlefinger, manipulating.
You're right. Let's defend him. He threw his daughter into bed with the king so that he could stay in charge.
Well, Catfish, this is where I'm going. This is something very similar to the original show Game of Thrones, where you start with Otto Hightower and you're like, this guy is not cool. You're right. He's pimping his daughter out to the recently widowed king. He's doing all these things. But if you remember Game of Thrones, what happened? The bad people would always be replaced by the worst people. So let's get to it. The person who you have already hinted may be gunning to bring Otto down, Larys Strong. This guy, number one, it's great political play. He saw how Aegon there on the throne room was reacting to having his judgments kind of, questioned by his Hand of the King. Now, admittedly, some of them were right, but probably
maybe all of them were right.
Yeah, maybe all of them were right, but nobody likes somebody saying, I don't know about that, right? When you think you have supreme authority from the seven lords, right? So what do you think about Larys? Is he jealous that Alicent, the woman who's been showing her feet to him so he can get his rocks off, is fooling around with Criston Cole? What are your thoughts on Larys? Do you like him? Where do you see him going? Let's hear it. Larys Strong.
Well, I think Larys is very dedicated to his kink, and I don't think he cares about what happens between Alicent and Criston, because that's not what he's into. He doesn't feel like she's cheating on him as long as she doesn't show her feet to Criston Cole.
Right. He's like, whatever you do, it's fine. But you're going to wear stockings and boots.
Ooh, whoa.
Right.
He's like, whoa.
Only I see the toes.
I need a moment. I'm excited to see where it goes with Larys. It's a little tricky to pull him aside right away. You don't know how close they actually are unless he's been already done a lot of research. So it's a little risky to go quick after Otto right away.
You mean go with much straight subtlety to the king? And you're right, straight that wasn't much subtlety at all.
Otto's been the hand of king to 3 kings. Maybe you want your own. Here I am. I'll kill Otto, whatever.
Well, he's a granddad. Similar to Criston Cole, and Otto Hightower. I like all of these characters. They are exciting to watch. Larys, once again, would I be friends with him in real life? I'd say no, but you're my friend, Catfish, so I can't be sure. But I like Larys. I like watching him. I certainly think he is the type of person you want on your team. All these characters we've talked about so far are Team Green. And even if you might even be repulsed, by their behavior, these are political players you want on your side. I think that's just my thought.
Oh, well, yeah, you definitely don't want to be vying against them.
Okay, well, let's go to 2 more members of Team Green. We're going to talk about Queen Helaena, who really had a terrible end of the episode, and then King Aegon. Any thoughts on Helaena, who has this kind of vision? She's a dreamer, like King Viserys always talked about. Today she was talking about, I'm not afraid of dragons, I'm afraid of the rats, or in this case, the rat catcher. And then you've got King Aegon. Thoughts on the 2 of them, these brother and sister who got married almost to strengthen Team Green, and not because these brother and sisters were so much in love with each other. Any thoughts on Helaena or Aegon, Catfish?
I mean, I'd like to see Helaena be a little bit more active.
Yeah.
They've really made her more like she's just kind of this loon, and I want to see her a little bit more in her own power.
Right. I'm going to say this about Helaena, and listeners, if you disagree, once again, don't unsubscribe. Just tell us. We love ideas that are different from our own. I want to say that Game of Thrones, once again, the original show, which I've been referring to so much on this podcast, it had more characters than this in season 1. It had more characters than this in season 2. But it did a good job of giving them moments to where you could really see how they are. Helaena, even though she was in she was in probably 5 of the 10 episodes last season and did have little moments, you didn't really have long discussions with Helaena. And so it feels like here in season 2, really the most horrific thing of season 2 so far, it's 1 episode, but the most horrific thing is really her experience. But it's a bit like you said about the murder victim in this case, Catfish. We don't know her well enough to truly feel the heartbreak. So I hope that's different. Listeners, I hope it's different from you. Helaena, Queen of Team Green, let us know what you think. Catfish, let's go to a person who theoretically is not on either side of this, and that's Mysaria, who you were very tough on her accent. She's come out with possibly accent 2.0 here in season 2. Keep trying. Well, Catfish, she was in Daemon's bed. She was his paramour. She was with him at the beginning of season 1. By the end of season 2, she is helping out Otto, telling him where to find Aegon when Aegon is trying to run away and not be crowned. Now she's theoretically having to give Daemon what he wants. Or any thoughts on her? One of the few characters who is truly a wild card.
I mean, let's have her have a new accent every week.
I think that is possible. All right, hey. What felt like the character you celebrated as much as Aemond last year is good old Uncle Daemon. Uncle Daemon in this episode, his wife, Rhaenyra, says, I want, once again, she doesn't say my brother, but she says, I want Aemond. He takes it, theoretically, he takes that into his own hands. He's like, okay, my wife wants Aemond. Let me see if I can get her for him. This murder of this infant, even though the knife wasn't in his hand, Daemon did it. But once again, Daemon was kind of your buddy last year, somebody who was certainly pops anytime he's on screen. We're on TeamBlack. What do you think of Daemon Targaryen?
Look, I mean, maybe sometimes you just can't get the best help. Even though the rat catcher was dim, you could tell the guy in charge of the rat catcher was also not a member of Mensa.
Listen to me.
So are you sure that it was Daemon who said, kill somebody important?
Ooh, well, that is a good point. Instead of just, Catfish.
Yeah.
That is a wonderful point. Last year, also in the first episode of season 1, there was a moment where we find out Daemon said the words of the dead baby, heir for a day. Yet as an audience, we never actually saw him say those words. In this episode, the first episode of season 2, I think it was Blood, the kind of Gold Cloak member who asks him. It might have been Cheese, the rat catcher, but I think it was this bigger guy, Blood, who says, hey, what do you want us to do if we can't find Aemond? And it cuts to a shot of Daemon's face, of Matt Smith's face, but we don't hear what he said. I suppose we're supposed to take it, well, just kill any prince, but we didn't hear as an audience hear him say this. It's confusing because we've seen Daemon kill his first wife in cold blood. Like there was no subtlety about that. But in this particular case, we don't exactly know what Daemon said to these two guys. What do you think? What is going on here, Catfish?
Look, I don't know what's going on, but make it more clear so that you don't confuse poor Catfish, who's easily confused.
Oh my goodness, too easily confused. Well, how about this, Catfish? Would you be upset if it turns out he said only kill Aemond and these guys went rogue? Would that upset you that this little baby prince was killed kind of by accident, not because anybody wanted him to die? Like, in the end, that's what happened. Nobody did want him to die, but would it upset you if Daemon didn't give them, hey, here's a plan B if plan A didn't work?
I think so, only because I'm not a super fan of things being set into motion by accident. I would prefer if he really said, just get somebody with blonde hair and a penis.
What if poor Tywin Lannister got it? He's like, wait a minute. I'm not a member of that family. Ouch. Okay, well, here's where I get into trouble with people knowing that, once again, I just love watching Team Green more. And I don't think it's the actor's fault. But my question to you listeners, once again, write down in the comments, hit us up on social media. Outside of Daemon, and maybe in a different episode, Rhaenyra, she really didn't have much to do but mourn in this episode. Is there anybody on the Blacks that is a fascinating character you love watching? Now, let me say, I think the kids, Daemon's kids, baby Joffrey, who we've barely seen, and Jace, who we saw at the wall at the beginning of this episode, they don't have much kind of characteristics other than we're Rhaenyra's kids. But there's still Rhaenys, who's kind of cool, but didn't have much to do. There's
I think it's only Rhaenys.
Yeah, well, what about Corlys? Maybe he's, trying to build a ship.
Yeah.
Who on TeamBlack? Well, I'm saying, Catfish, this was a tough episode, especially for these members.
Yeah, it's only Rhaenys who's been a badass.
So there
anybody can go up to the north and convince a poor dumb Stark to join them.
I feel tough. Once again, I don't think it's the actor's fault. I think Corlys at times in season 1 was fascinating. Certainly Rhaenys was very fascinating. Rhaenyra was an incredibly fascinating character in season 1. But in this episode, Blacks, what do you got for me? I guess we have the Eric, we have Eric and Eric, the two twins, one a knight on both sides. But, and he said something I agree with. He's like, listen, I was a Kingsguard member. My job was to protect the royal family. Daemon, you're getting mad at me that I didn't kill one of the royal family at that specific moment. I feel for Knight Eric, but Knight Eric, outside of being in a tough situation, maybe, we don't really know about him. You know what I mean? What is his character?
All right, it sounds like to me that you're saying you're still Team Green all the way.
I am still, okay, Catfish, let's get to it. This is one of our final discussion points. Which team are you on? And based on as a viewer of what I want to watch, I prefer to watch Team Green. There, I said it. Hashtag Green Gang.
Right. Well, Bubba, since I don't know what's coming in the future, I'm going to do this just the way I'm doing what team character I'm going to be on.
Okay.
Who can be the most bloodthirsty and humorous?
Oh boy, that is interesting.
That's the person and team I'll be on. Now look.
Interesting.
We know sometimes that Michael Jordan, LeBron James took teams to the playoffs and they couldn't win even though they were great.
Yeah.
So it's possible I'll take Team Green, but my MVP will be someone on the black team.
Oh my goodness gracious.
I'm just asking for the maximum carnage.
Well, we didn't really have a window to talk about Aemond back on Team Green. He's told you're the most feared man in the land now, and his dragon is the one, keeping our skies safe around King's Landing. Any thoughts on Aemond? Because you were on his team last year. Now you're leaning towards his brother, King Aegon or Larys. Any way he can get back in your good graces there, Catfish?
Well, I know it seems like if he'd already decided a child to die, that I should automatically put him back number one.
Uh,
But he's still got some work to do.
okay. Well, how about this? He killed one of the kids because he lost an eye. Do we need him to lose more body parts so he'll be more bloodthirsty?
He's delicious right now, and he should just be thankful that he's no longer on The Last Kingdom because his haircut was horrific on that show.
He was the page boy. He was like, wasn't he?
He was King Alfred's bastard son.
Right, but he was like a monk at one point, right? Or he was part of the church for one point. And so they had him get the standard bowl cut. Give him a break there,
It's the same thing I say to you, Bubba.
Yeah.
You can either have excuses or good hair.
Listeners, you can't hear it, but Catfish is laughing at his own joke. That is a sound that you'll often hear only on the Joffrey podcast. And with that said, since we're being so silly, let's get to match game 3, Catfish. Let's hear you read this question.
All right, I will. Lord Larys is so sneaky.
How sneaky is he?
When he plays cards, he always hides a blank up his sleeve.
Boom 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 do 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 do. Okay.
All right, Bubba, here we go.
Here we go.
Lord Larys is so sneaky.
How sneaky is he?
When he plays cards, he always hides a blank up his sleeve.
Well, I didn't really have a good answer for this, so I put a shoehorn. He loves feet. I don't know. I was trying to think what else could go up his sleeve.
All right, Bubba. Well,
All right. When he plays cards, he always hides a blank up his sleeve.
Because he's so tricky, you would think he would hide a club.
Yeah.
But he actually hides a heart.
Oh my God. How did I not think a club? Oh my God, a heart. Oh, I'm going to give that a slight dingle because unlike most of this podcast, you put some thought into that. So that deserves a baby ring. Listeners, we didn't put this one on social media because once again, because we want you to play along. We want you to write to us your answer. Lord Larys is so sneaky when he plays cards. He always hides a blank up his sleeve. Let's see if you can outsmart our pretty smart host, Catfish.
You should feel bad if you can't.
All right, everybody, put your ball in the dish. It's time for the small council. We got a couple of small council questions to talk about. We want to know your thoughts, as always, at PHQ, YouTube comments. Let's hear them. We're going to talk about them each and every week. First debate up for the small council. It has been 2 years since season 1 aired on HBO. Catfish, you mentioned it. We all needed that previously on. It maybe could have been twice as long. How do you feel you are 2 years after with a 2-year break? You still into it? It sounds like from an 8.7 you are, but is there anything that would have helped you on this 2-year break?
Bubba, I probably should just watch it all over again.
Yeah, it's quick. It's good. The time jumps, you'll at least be expecting them now. I know that was a big problem for a lot of people in season 1. It'd be like there'd be one episode, then it'd be like, 3 years later. Oh, well, 2 years later. Now what? 10 years later. I'm pretty sure it happened one time. I'm like you. I have not, listeners, I apologize. In the 2 years, I have not gone through and watched those 10 episodes of season 1 again. Mainly because I thought I read the books. I knew the story very well. I watched the trailers for season 2. I feel like I know what's coming. I'm pretty sure I know what's going to be the end of next week's episode. And because of spoilers online, I know what's going to happen in episode 4 of the first 4 released. I know how 2 and 4 end. The 2-year break is weird. It was weird on Game of Thrones, that final between season 7 and 8. And now it's weird here, too. It's just weird to have so long a break of a TV show. They have been renewed for season 3. They theoretically are going to film it this year. Now, there's always at least a year of post-production that has to happen after they film, but they're going to film season 3 this year. If the 7 gods are just, we'll have season 3 much sooner, but I guess I survived the 2-year break is how I'd say it.
Yeah, we needed sooner.
Without question. Okay, so now let's get to question 2 here on the Small Council. Leave your ball. Don't play with the ball, little prince. Tyland's got to answer his question. King Aegon, he was once again just a supporting character in season 1. He was wanking at the window. He was doing all sorts of stuff when his dad died. Rather than being in the castle close to his dad and his family after his dad died, he was trying to escape and not be named king. Now, once again, it's about 10 days later after his coronation, you would think, or I should say it's actually 10 days later after his little nephew Luke got eaten. But call me crazy, this guy who had various bad behaviors revealed to us in season 1, to me, it looks like he's trying to be a good king. He doesn't want this guy to lose all his goats. He doesn't want this guy to have to, buy all this iron and all these materials to make these scorpions without the cash.
By the way, that guy was a main character on a TV show called The Warrior, which is very good. So he is clearly going to be featured more this season.
Catfish, that's a slight spoiler, but I won't say anything else. But yes, he would. You mean the guy who
asked for the silver.
Asked for the coins so he could buy his materials ahead of time. But what do you think about King Aegon? To me, for slight spoiler for The Wire, if anybody knows in The Wire, Tommy Carcetti is elected mayor, and his first couple of weeks, he is really trying to be a good mayor of Baltimore and make everybody happy and take care of things. And so Aegon, who really came across like a selfish douche. In fact, in this episode, he's even like, hey, where's my son? I have no idea where my son is. Oh, he's in the library. When he was trying to rule, call me crazy, it seemed like he did care about being a good king. I thought it was a nice twist, even if that'll go out the window now that what's happened to his son has happened. I thought it was great that they tried to make him somewhat competent and somewhat caring about other people. I loved it.
No, I agree. It was kind of a shock to me when he did actually try to be magnanimous. But
yeah,
there's a distinction.
Oh, let's hear it. Oh, I love this.
Many people can be a good king.
Yes.
But who gets really remembered is a great king.
Ooh, that is a good call.
And there's a few ways to be great.
Okay.
One is, as we discussed, Alfred on the Last Kingdom.
Yeah.
You basically gather together a group of disparate people and create a new idea of a unified group of people having one idea of togetherness.
Yeah, that's what he did, yeah.
Or you could be known as a great king by killing a whole bunch of people. And so I think King Aegon wanted to be a good king, but now I think he could be a great king.
No. He is definitely not going to take this too well, as no one would. No one would take this well, but he is not going to take this well as all. Let's say if like tomorrow you have to go and say, petition him for some more sheep, he's not going to, he's not going to be in such a sheep giving mood, if you know what I mean.
No, he won't give a sheep.
No, he said it. How terrible.
I'm giving you my A+ material here,
Bubba. A+, just A+. Okay, now here we go. The small council debate number 3. Catfish, let's hear this question.
All right. Is Ser Criston Cole more impressive as head of the Kingsguard?
Yep.
Or the head of the keep him away from your queen guard?
Oh my goodness. Boy, oh boy. I'm going to somehow take this question seriously and say that you are in a secret, as far as you know, relationship with a woman. And then you're constantly around her kids who are bad-mouthing her to your face. Aemond was like, she loves our enemy. What a fool. Now, Criston didn't exactly defend Alicent. He didn't join, he didn't pile on like other people did. That's awkward. That's incredibly awkward. But I would say Queen Alicent has had a rough go of it. I mean, she was handed off, told to, hey, go fool around with Viserys, and he was what? if we're being generous, 25 years older than her, maybe more. As she kind of spent her nights with him, he had body parts falling off. I think she needs somebody to, keep her in shape, keep her not in shape. I mean, keep her, keep her attitude up. And so I'm going to say Criston.
I was so
Cole,
waiting for
yes.
whatever was going to come next. I was so excited.
I'm glad. Anticipation. Just like Alicent was excited for Criston Cole to get to her.
All right, so
I'm going to
you're free
say,
to interpret that question how you want.
I'm going to say I'm calling him more impressive is taking care of the queen.
Yeah.
How about that? That?
I'm just going to say he's a horrible leader of the Kingsguard. And basically, he shouldn't even be on the Kingsguard.
Oh, no.
Not even in the Junior Kingsguard.
Oh.
Not in the Cub Kingsguard.
Wait, come on. How about the Weebelows?
No.
How terrible. So therefore, you agree with me? He's more impressive taking care of the queen? Is that how you're answering your own question?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You can trust him more to protect your rat catcher.
How about this? If you were in Criston Cole's shoes, would you rather be in the Kingsguard or in the Queen? Listeners, we couldn't be too serious. We're getting back into our groove. We want to say that this whole episode, we've always said, certainly ignore our silliness, our tongue-in-cheek takes, even our serious takes. We want to hear from you at double PHQ. That's the word double, the single letter P as in podcast, HQ for headquarters, at double PHQ on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Facebook, youtube.com. Leave those comments, like the video, subscribe. We need you to subscribe and be with us on this journey the whole season long. For everybody here at Double PHQ, my name's Bubba. You can find me on Twitter at FitInTrim. That's FITTENTRIM, at FitInTrim on Twitter.
And I'm Catfish. You can find me on Instagram and Blue Sky at GETOTHEMAN.
And you'll hear us next time on
the
Joffrey
Podcast. We sounded sicker than that kid as he was getting his head sound off.
Aw. Do you think Alicent will ever get busy with Criston Cole again after this happened? Hey, while we were getting busy, you weren't protecting my grandson.
I mean, he can't be in two places at once.
She's going to need more Kingsguard.